Hi, everybody. Toby Henderson with Harrison Lilley at Box Components here in Anaheim, California. We're going to here today to talk about our M30 and our M35 cranks, oversized technology. We designed these cranks almost 13 years ago. It was one of the first things we did at Box when we first started with a push of M35. And we'll show you a little bit of the difference between the two. I'll let Harrison talk about why we did what we did and where we're at with some of this stuff. But the idea was on the M35, which is our premier one under the Box 1 level, was to get this oversized technology, get this power transfer to the ground. To do so, though, frames had to be BB30 or PF30. Since then, we've developed B52. And we won't go in that too much today. It's a different video, but these cranes also fit the B52 system as well. But when you buy this crank, you're going to get a PF or BB30, which many manufacturers adopted in the very beginning with us, right? But the whole point of that was this massive 35 millimeter spindle, right? So anyway, almost 13 years ago, these are hollow, and they got 35 millimeter spindle, 4-bolt chainring. Anyway, so just amazing crank. And anybody who ever runs this crank, they just don't go back, right? So, but the frame guys had to change, and that was the biggest obstacle. We had to overcome all the frames out there that wouldn't accept this size spindle, and that's the sweet spot for us. We found that 35 millimeters in alloy is actually lighter than 24 millimeter chromoly. Correct? Yep. So that was the whole point of the 35 millimeter. Anything less than that, the spindle becomes not as robust or not as durable as the chromoly stuff. So, but because the frames had to change, we had to turn around and create a Box 2 crank using the same ones, right? But with a 30 millimeter body doctor, or spindle, I should say. So you kind of hold and buckles this, and you kind of see it, right? You can kind of see the difference between the two, right? It's the same crank arm, but this is 30 and this is 35. This fits any Euro BB, BB86 on the market at BMX racing. So this fits everybody's bike. This takes a special frame, and there's plenty of them out there. In the beginning, GT and Mabel and these guys jumped in the very beginning, SC Racing, all jumped in the beginning to adopt this because they all believed in it. But a lot of people didn't have the frame or didn't want to buy the frame to adopt this, so we went ahead and gave this guy to compensate for the other people. But when we do an FEA test between a 24 millimeter chromoly spindle, which is 100 grams heavier than this setup, was a 41%. It was very high, 41% power transfer, greater power transfer with this spindle setup than a chromoly 24 millimeter spindle. And that's on the website.
Yeah, and it'd be he's made with these prints as well.
Yeah, so you can find that graph where we put that up. Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of the backstory of why we have these two. We also make this guy in a mini for 155 to 145. size 145, 150, and 155. We do make a mini version of this. It's a different arm, but the same spindle. Still high technology. And especially for the little kids, that 30 millimeter spindle is really a big deal. So, and again, those fit Euro BBs in any frame out there. So, but I'll let Harrison talk about some of the technology part of it, how maybe the crank arm comes off with that cool system, the PF and BB30 bottom brackets you might need, and stuff like that, and the sizes that are available. But
yeah, can you grab your bottom bracket? We can show them side by side, or you show that on the website too, right?
Especially when we start pushing BQ2, we really show.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot, 30 to 35, but you can see that's the bearing size in the bottom bracket. You can see on the spindle how much of a difference it is, and you can really feel it, especially at the top end, the pro level. It's like those guys, if they used to have a frame that could only take this, and then they transition to a 35 frame, or they just transition cranks, whatever it might be, they really notice the difference. It's a stiff-ish change that I've been on 24s forever, or it's been fine, whatever. And then you get to 30, you're like, oh, that's pretty nice. And then you get to 35 and you don't feel anything anymore. There's no flex when you're pressing really hard, when you're landing heavy, if you pace a jump, if you do anything crazy, this is going to come over.
I think we've only had one spindle bend in the entire history of 13 years. It was Barry Noble's jump rope for roof of the house. Flat. That's the only one we've had bend so far in 13 years of best spindle. So
yeah, that'll do spot. That'll do it. Yeah. If you're really trying to, then sure. But yeah, otherwise these have been bomb-proof for us. Like Toby said, it's a hollow brain garden, so we try to get as much weight out of it as we can, while still giving you a really large platform to pedal through. That's something that, again, to go with the spindle, So that way you still get the pedal efficiency between the two crank arms. You lose a little bit of stiffness overall with the spindle. But like Toby mentioned, it was really just so that way we could fit this crank arm on more frames, because there's still a lot that don't adopt larger bottom brackets. It's a big task to get people to take on a new bottom bracket.
Yes. We've been doing it for 13 years and had very few people get on board, right?
Yeah. It took a long time to get this adopted and accepted. And then now we've got B52, like Toby mentioned, and that's a whole nother standard. It still is for this crank, but yes, we're working with more and more brands every week to try and get people on board.
Yeah, the sales team was working with brands trying to get the Marshall jump aboard. There's Race Inc., there's Sendit, there's Vehicle that adopted the B52. I think there's a couple more on the new list too.
Yeah, the guys come. Yeah, some more coming.
I know some other guys are trying it, but just for reference, the B52 is the bearings are inside. So the B52 bottom bracket is now this big.
Yeah.
Right. But with the same spindle, allowing you to put the bearings inside. And that technology is on our website, like we mentioned before, too. So, but it does take the same crank, but it does take a special bottom bracket. And anybody who rides that and comes off of that completely feel the difference. One of our engineers who just came off of an M30 bike to an M35 bike, he's getting a 2.9%. We're going to publish all this up down the road. Better top of the hill to the bottom of the hill or his local track. So 2.9% doesn't sound like much, but that might be just enough to get your elbow over the other guy, right?
Yeah.
But the point of all this is, right?
When there's a check on the line, a trophy on the line, 2.9% is...
And BMX is all about this much.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway.
So, yeah. And like Toby said, these are, even though it's a bigger spindle, it's lighter than its chromoly counterpart, which is 11 millimeters smaller. You can see, probably from this end a little bit better, they're both hollow spindles. So we take, like I said, with the crank arms, the spindles, we take all the weight we can out of the crank, because that's the last thing you want to be pedaling something heavy around. And then Toby also mentioned both these have self-extracting bolts, which is more cranks now in the higher tier.
We don't use pinch bolts. So we have to use pinch bolts, and pinch bolts eventually will batter up and not work very well.
Yeah, so this is, once you tie it down, it's solid, it's on there, it's not going anywhere. And when you take it off, you don't need to dig around your toolbox for a crank extractor. That's something you never have when you need it. So everything is all in one. Yeah, that's our top two tiers. We do have our box 3, 4, and 5 cranks for other bikes, other frames, square teeth or Euro bottom brackets, 24 millimeter spindles. But these are our top tier best cranks that we've got, and we're still developing and iterating off them today.
Right.
So we've got more to
each crank does come with a tool.
Yeah.
So move the bottom bracket off and on. Right. So it's a 30 on this guy. So like that. So it does come with a tool to put your bottom bracket on and come with the bottom brackets.
Yeah. On the same with the 35.
Yep.
So yeah, everything you need to install them to get going in the box, ready to go.
So for this crank, you need a Euro BB on your bike. And for this crank, you're going to need either B52 or PF or BB30.
Yes.
To use this crank. So Euro BB, PF30, BB30, BT2. A lot of B's in that stuff. Anyway. So anything else about these being hollow? We don't have the washers in here, which is a much better system. The little plate that they put in some of them.
Yeah, they bend, you lose them, they crack. You replace them over time. Which one more thing to lose at the track when you happen to need to take your pedal off for some reason or other. So yeah, since it's all one piece, there's no pedal insert, no threaded insert on the backside, so you don't need a washer to protect that. So
and again, hollow. I think we never mentioned that these are hollow. And they're very tricky to make.
Yeah,
extremely tricky to make. This is a very high quality crank by far. So
yeah,
I'm really proud of what we turned here. From the Health of Practice, this helped us do that. Their logos are here. The ones help us design this product. Full design, very high-end OEM crank maker. But yeah, so M35 and M30. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I think that's about.
You want to close this out?
Sure. Yeah. So this is our cranks. This is Toby. I'm Harrison. Box Components. We'll see you next time.